Well, hello, Canadian Campaholic here. Today I'm going to do a video in response to a comment from one of my viewers, IRH Patterson, I think I have that right, posed some interesting questions about moving from a pop-up camper or a tent trailer to a travel trailer like ours that you see behind me. We have had this travel trailer now, a 197 BH Salem Cruise Light trailer, for almost 3 years. We went from a 1999 Palomino yearling up to this trailer, and we've had several seasons under our belt now, and I have to tell you, best decision we ever made. So we're going to break this video down into several key areas. The first thing that we're going to talk about is, of course, the cost. What does it cost to buy something like this as opposed to a tent trailer? We're then going to talk about using it, towing it, backing it into campsites, and actually camping in it. And then the last thing I'll talk about is maintenance, because IRH Patterson had some specific concerns about the level of maintenance that comes into play when you have a travel trailer versus a simple tent trailer. So let's head inside and get started. So let's start off by talking about costs. Obviously, prices are going to vary. And it's going to depend whether you are in the US or up here in Canada or in Europe or other parts of the world. But to give you some ballpark estimates, brand new tent trailers or pop-up campers, if you get something fairly basic, you're looking at between $8,000 to $11,000 on the cheap side. That's Canadian, to buy something brand new. Travel trailers are anywhere from $16,000, and the sky's the limit. This particular trailer, which we bought brand new in 2017, we paid just over $16,000 for it, which for a 22-foot travel trailer is quite cheap. But I honestly felt that at that price, it was well worth the investment. Used trailers, used tent trailers, pop-up campers, that's going to vary. You get something really old from the 70s or 80s in terms of a pop-up camper that needs a lot of work, could pay a few $100 for it. Anything in the 2000s, you're probably looking at a few $1,000s to buy. So the upfront costs are definitely going to vary. If you are in a tent and you're not sure what you want to do, maybe you don't have the best tow vehicle, or you're scared of towing, or you're not really sure whether you want to do this whole camping thing, then yeah, a tent trailer is probably a good idea, because you're going to have less cost up front to kind of get you into the groove, and then later you can do like we did and upgrade to a travel trailer. So that would be the upfront costs. All right, so let's now move to a different realm, of course, which is the real joy of this, which is using these. I will say that our tent trailer, it had an 11-foot box. It weighed about 2,000 pounds, or maybe a little under 2,000 pounds. It didn't have trailer brakes. And it wasn't difficult to tow, but I definitely, if you had to brake in a hurry without trailer brakes, you could certainly feel it pushing the vehicle a little bit. Maneuvering the tent trailer was obviously a lot easier because it was a lot smaller. But in some cases, being small posed challenges, because as I was backing it into campsites, if it hit a little divot in the ground, it would tend to move a lot more. But yes, if you're scared of towing or new to towing, a tent trailer is going to be a lot easier. Moving up to this trailer, 22 feet long from the ball to the bumper, about 10 feet high, from the ground all the way up to the roof vents. I think psychologically it was very intimidating, but by travel trailer standards, this is pretty small. But to go from a pop-up camper or tent trailer to this was a big difference. Again, more so in my head than anything else. This has got great trailer brakes, had an amazing brake controller on the first vehicle, great brake controller on the truck. So that makes a big difference. Yeah, in the wind, because this is a much taller trailer, that's going to have an impact. But we have an amazing weight distribution hitch made by Blue Ox, the Sway Pro, that I've shown you in other videos. Amazing piece of kit, and makes for a very safe tow. Backing into campsites, again, psychologically, I was really freaked out about it, but I was very impressed with how quickly I got used to the idea of backing it into a campsite. And the principles of backing in a tent trailer and a travel trailer are almost identical. And if you check out my video on how to back a trailer into a campsite, it gives you lots of tips on that. So from a towing standpoint, okay, yeah, you're going to burn through more gas using this. Yes, you're going to have to be more careful of the wind, but it wasn't a deal breaker. Let's talk about actually using the trailer, because one of the things that IRH Patterson, I'm sorry, I don't know your real name, commented on was setup. Setting up a tent trailer for me was fun in the beginning, but my kids at the time were young. My wife did help to a certain extent, but it was mostly for me. And cranking that thing up and putting the jack stands down and you know, pulling the bunks out and putting the support poles in and setting up the canvas. It was an older trailer. It was a 1999. By the time we were using it, it was 16 years old. Everything was stiff. It was exhausting. You get to a campsite on a hot day and it took forever to set that damn thing up. And yeah, in the beginning it was fun, but as time went on, the fun and the novelty quickly drained out of it, and it got to be a pain in the ass, I'll just say it. And it really cut into your camping time. The other thing with the tent trailer was that taking it down was just as big of a deal because you had to take just about everything out of it. It had almost no storage, so all your pots and pans, cutlery, dishes, clothes, everything had to come out of it. And tear down, I mean, checkout time at a provincial park is about 2 o'clock. So by the time you get up, go through your morning ablutions, have breakfast, if you're not starting to tear down by 11, you are going to cut it pretty close. And I've had instances where I've been wrestling with the tent trailer to take it apart with very little time to spare, and the last thing I want is some other family showing up glaring at us because we're on their site. So the setup and tear down of a tent trailer, especially if it's an older one, can be a little tiring. Whereas with this, you back it into the campsite, you level it, you put the stabilizers down, turn the gas on. You might have to set up a few things inside. I prime the toilet with 5 gallons of fresh water and a tank treatment. Put the awning out, which is a push button, and you're ready to camp. Way less time for setup. And leaving, same thing. Much more time on departure day to rest and relax. And there's still things to do. My wife is a bit of a germaphobe, so we don't leave any of our cutlery or dishes or anything in the trailer. We take it home to blast it in the dishwasher. We don't tend to leave clothes in the camper either. So, I mean, if we stopped taking all the dishes out and cleaning them, and if we left a quantity of clothing in here, we could probably cut that time down even more. The biggest thing I want to emphasize about using it, though, is just, oh my God, it is such a different experience to camp in a travel trailer. On wet, windy days, if you do a lot of early season or late season camping, after you've been out all day and you're kind of chilled to the bone and then things are a little damp, coming into these 4 solid walls, I've said this in other videos, with the roof, you've got a furnace in here, you've got electrical outlets, it's fairly well insulated, it can get very toasty and cozy in here, and it's wonderful. And on those days where it's really beautiful out or hot, you've got an air conditioner if you really need to escape the heat, but honestly, we don't spend a lot of time in the camper when the weather's nice. We are fishing, we're hiking, we're swimming, we're doing things outdoors, having a campfire. But on those days where the weather turns sour, or if you are doing cold weather camping, having this kind of an environment is fantastic. There are some elements about the tent trailer we miss a little bit. In the tent trailer, when you open up the canvas ends, the bunks, and have all the windows open, and you have that breeze going through, or at night you can hear nature around you. Sometimes in the travel trailer, you feel a little bit removed from that, and you sort of wake up in this, what some would say is a palace on wheels, depending on your definition. And you go outside and you're out in nature, and it's like, oh yeah, we're camping, we're out in the woods again, aren't we? Whereas in a tent trailer, you are acutely aware of that all the time. So I guess there are some elements of the tent trailer I miss. Feels a little more rustic. But the other point that was mentioned in the comments was you can't put a tent trailer away wet. A tent trailer with the canvas, if you put it away wet, the canvas is going to get moldy, you're going to have smells. We don't have a driveway we can put it in. We brought it here to the storage facility. Didn't like the idea of leaving it open here in case someone hit it. Whereas with this, I don't care what the weather's doing when I put it away. It could be snowing for all I care, and I don't have to worry about, canvas getting moldy and having to air it out and all the rest of it. The other thing I will say about using it, and then we'll move on to maintenance, is when it comes to maintenance, getting in and out of it is a lot easier. Obviously, with a tent trailer, if you're worried about damp or issues like that, you've got to open the whole thing up, whereas with this, you can just walk in it. So the experience, you got an onboard bathroom. Our tent trailer had nothing. It didn't have a furnace. It had a pump tap, like a little squirt pump tap that quit working fairly quickly. Small holding tank. No furnace, as I mentioned. 3-burner stove, gas stove, and that was about it. Obviously, it had lights and it had a few power outlets, but that was pretty much it. This trailer's got a fridge, a freezer, a microwave, a propane furnace. It's got a toilet. It's got a hot water heater. It's, you know, the creature comforts, air conditioner, in here are way above and beyond anything the tent trailer had. So obviously, that makes for a much better experience. The last thing that I want to talk about to wrap this video up is maintenance. I know that going from a tent trailer, which is fairly easy to maintain, going to a travel trailer can be a little bit intimidating, and I was worried about that. I thought, oh my gosh, what if I have a bunch of warranty work that needs to be done? You sometimes hear horror stories about people buying brand new trailers and having all kinds of issues. I do have a video on my channel about buying new versus used, and you can check out some of my tips about that there. But let me give you a rundown of what we've experienced with this trailer since we've had it. It has never been back to the dealership for warranty work. Anything that needed to be fixed, I was able to fix myself. And I'm not a handyman, but I read a lot and I've learned a lot about trailers. And I've done most of the work myself. So the one thing that we had an issue with was the water pump needed an adjustment. There's some little tiny almost Allen screws on the pump that you can adjust to adjust the flow and the pressure, and that needed some minor tweaking. We had an issue where the furnace was coming on by itself, and I have a video on my channel about how we troubleshooted that. That was the first major issue. We've had some issues with the air conditioner dribbling water inside. That turned out, folks, to actually be a condensation issue. This window beside me was sometimes open, and if you're going to run one of these wall-mounted air conditioners, you got to button this thing down. Close the roof vent as much as you can. Close all the windows and the doors. You don't want any humidity in here, because what was happening was, it wasn't that the air conditioner was leaking into the trailer, it was that it was getting condensation on the underside of the air conditioner that was dripping through the cabinetry. So that we kind of fixed on our own. What else has gone wrong with this? We had an issue with the hot water heater. I have a video on my channel about how I fixed that. That was just changing a little circuit board. Not a very difficult job. Awkward in the sense that access is a little tricky, but it wasn't hugely expensive. It was a few $100. Pretty easy to fix. What else has happened with this? We needed to put a new switch on the tongue jack. That was a bit of a pain in the ass. You might want to get that done by a professional. We had new roof vents. Not roof vents, sorry, Max Air vent covers installed. I had that done professionally. We also had the bearings serviced and the brakes serviced at least every 2 years. Some would recommend every year, but for me, with this trailer, every 2 years. I had that done professionally. That and the Max Air roof vents was about $300. It took them a day. So I'm not going to mess around with bearings and brakes. I want a professional to do that. Winterizing. Winterizing is not that complicated. I have a video about that on my channel as well. That's pretty straightforward. Dewinterizing is even easier. Cleaning it, not a big deal. You need one hell of a ladder, obviously, to get up on the roof to clean it. But I don't feel that maintaining it is really overwhelming. Obviously, you've got the toilet system, you've got the black tank you've got to look after. That didn't exist on the tent trailer. But those things all became second nature. I've got a video on maintaining your black tank as well if you want to check that out. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is you don't have to be a super duper handyman with a ton of tools to maintain a travel trailer. This thing is parked in a storage facility away from our home. Most of the work I can do some of it here, some of it I have to do at my in-laws. We manage just fine. We haven't had any major failures. We haven't had any major disasters. It's clean in here, smells nice, works nice. So again, if you're gonna go from a tent trailer to a travel trailer, don't worry about the maintenance. It's not as bad as you might think. Now, if you're gonna go up to a massive 30-foot trailer with slide outs or a huge fifth wheel, well, the more bells and whistles you have, obviously, the more you're going to have to work with. This trailer is pretty basic, but maintenance was nice and simple. So we'll wrap this video up by saying that, I loved a tent trailer. Great way to start. Built a lot of great memories, but I don't think I would ever go back. Travel trailer for me is the way to go. Anyway, stay safe. Hopefully we can all go camping very soon, and we'll talk to you later.